Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new here. If you are new here, hi, my name is Sarah, and for today's video, we have some pressing matters that we need to discuss. Specifically movies, even more specifically Halloween movies. For today's video, I kind of just wanted to go over with you guys my top 15 scary movies, or like horror Halloween kind of theme movies, and to kind of make it more of a catching title, I'm doing 15 movies in the last 15 days of October. So let's get into it. And just as a slight disclaimer preface to the start of this video, these are in no particular order, it's just what I could come up with off the top of my head. So firstly, something that can be a Christmas movie or a Halloween movie, but The Nightmare Before Christmas. So it is essentially about this guy, Skeleton, who is named Jack Skellington, appropriately named of course. And he's kind of just done with the whole Halloween aspect of his life, which is literally every single day of the year, which I personally would have no problem with, but you know, I guess if you live like that for your entire life, it kind of gets a little bit boring. But yeah, so he decides to further travel or explore more into other worlds, and he kind of just goes down a little rabbit hole and ends up finding a town strictly about Christmas. Essentially kind of like Whoville, only not exactly. And then, well, he kind of starts bringing Christmas to him in a way that shouldn't really be done. Next up on my list is the infamous Beetlejuice. Beetlejuice. It's showtime. Which I actually have done a makeup special effects tutorial last year on, which I will link below if you want to see that. So the storyline behind this one is that there are two people who are living basically in love in a house, and then they actually end up driving and getting in a car crash, and then end up having to basically just relive in their house every single day, to which they are haunting now. Which they're pretty fine with anyways, but essentially a new family ends up living in there, so they end up having to haunt them. One of the family members is actually named Lydia, which is where the known quote, Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice comes from. And this couple that finally moves into the old couple's house and gets the haunting done to them tries to basically just scare them away to make the haunting stop. So they bring in a medium to try to, again, get rid of the haunting, which then ties in Beetlejuice as an actual character. Beetlejuice's main job of this entire movie is to scare the new residents away, which he does a damn good job of, but this essentially makes it so it's almost like a dangerous game that they're playing of cat and mouse, which Lydia gets in the middle of. Beetlejuice is actually one of my favorite movies to watch actually any time of the year, but specifically a lot of people for Halloween. Next up is a little bit more of a kids movie, but I would definitely recommend watching it no matter what age you are, and it is Halloween Town. It is a Disney movie, I believe, and it does come around every Halloween, although you can probably just stream it online for free anyways. It is about this little girl who ends up on one of her birthdays finding out that she is a witch. And as coping and learning how to deal with that, she also has to help to save a small town of Halloween Town. The next movie in line is The Haunted Mansion, which again is more of a like cutesy little movie. This movie does star Eddie Murphy, which essentially his character is a workaholic whose wife actually accuses him of neglecting his son and daughter, which does sound kind of dark, but it does get a little bit more cutesy through it. And so he offers to take them out for a family vacation. And through this, he gets a work call, and he is a real estate agent. So it's a work call, basically sell a house for the residents of the house. So they end up taking a little side trip to this house, and during so they find out that it's actually a haunted mansion. There are a few spirits who are actually haunting the mansion through a curse, and unfortunately there is a little bit of ties in between, and then this family has to help break that curse. Now straying a little bit towards horror, once again a little bit away from the Disney movies, is 13 Ghosts. This is a little bit more of a spooky, kind of like gory movie. This is about a family who inherits a pretty decent amount of property, specifically a house, from a very eccentric but not really well-known uncle. The house is very, very beautiful, but there is just one major problem, and that is that the house is kind of haunted by, you guessed it, 13 ghosts. There's a bunch of weird stuff that goes on, like shifting walls and, well, bloody bathtub, stuff like that. And some of these do actually get pretty dangerous, so be warned, it is a little bit on the bloody, gory side of life, but that is perfect for Halloween. Next up, again, not specifically for Halloween, but a classic Ginger Snaps. This movie is a story of two girls who are kind of just like really best friends, almost like sisters, and they have become blood sisters, which, if anybody doesn't know, that is basically when you cut yourself and then you like stick your fingers together or stick your hands together and you literally like conjoin blood. And they get really, really bored a lot of the time because they live in a very suburban neighborhood or town. So the one girl is named Ginger and the other is named Bridget. And the first night that she gets her first period, she is attacked by a creature. It's really a bloody mess, but her wounds just happen to heal. But then something is just really off about her still. The purpose of the story is basically that she turns into a werewolf, which is why Ginger snaps. Get it? But Bridget has to basically help to save her life by whatever means necessary. and also basically save the town. Throwing it back to another Tim Burton movie is Corpse Bride. There are 3 main characters to this. One of them isn't as involved, but there's Victor and Victoria, whose parents have arranged for them to get married, but Victor doesn't actually want to get married to her. So he kind of has cold feet about the whole ceremony going on, so he kind of just travels into the forest, and during this he just falls into a trap of Emily's creation, which Emily is the 3rd character, aka Corpse Bride. Emily became a corpse because she eloped and then she was murdered right after eloping. And she decides that she wants to actually marry Victor. But going back to Victoria, Victor decides that he has to save Victoria's life because she is about to marry the villain of it all. Next up is, again, another classic, The Exorcist. The little creepy story behind it is that it's actually based on real life events. It is based around a young girl named Regan. No one is more pissed off that I said her name like that than I am, just so you guys know. Who kind of just goes all tongue-tied, quite literally, and her mother gets really worried about her, so she ends up having to contact multiple people to try to find out what's going on. She gets involved with a priest, and the priest actually thinks that she has been summoned by the devil, so essentially just taken over by him. After getting confirmation from the mother that he can actually perform the exorcism, this is when everything goes crazy. And then next up, something I've actually, again, done a tutorial on, and if you guys want to watch that, I'll leave it in the description box down below, but it is Coraline. And again, another Tim Burton movie. Can you guys kind of guess one of my favorite types of movies? This movie is based around a girl named Coraline, as obviously the title kind of hints at. And so she moves into a new house, and during this whole move into the new house, she decides that she wants to explore a little bit. And during her exploring, she finds a door, which leads to an alternate universe that kind of closely resembles the universe that she's currently living in, but in her opinion is quite a bit better in many ways. She's super happy about living in this kind of alternative world of hers until she finds the other mother, which is basically just her mother, but very, very, very evil. A very large evil to scale. And it's not just the other mother, it's also another entirely different family, but it's still mirrored to her family. So they look like her family and they sound like her family, but they're really, really evil. And their whole plan is to keep her there. So once she finds out that this whole other family exists, is when she tries to get back to her regular family, which again, the other family's whole purpose in life right now is to make sure that she doesn't get back. So it's really just a push and pull of her attempting to get back to her family and not being able to. Next up is The Addams Family. Now, there are quite a few versions of this show and movie, but the main focus of it is that there is a man named Fester who comes into the Addams family and claims to be the long-lost brother of Gomez Addams. Of course, the family is very, very happy about this because the more the merrier, right? But the wife, who is named Morticia, who you guys have probably seen everything of, because it's a very well-known costume and character, she's a little bit weary about whether or not this is an actual long-lost cousin or whether he's a fraud. Fester does get some help from some outside sources, aka his friends and stuff, to actually get this family evicted from their home. Gomez finally realizes this is actually a thing that's going on, and so he challenges Fester. But that is the actual movie. However, I did get really into the show, but because this video is about movies, that's where I was going with this one. Except it's again more of a kids movie, and that is Monster House. This story is based around the fact that a house is literally a living human monster, and there are 2 young kids who nobody in the neighborhood actually believes them that this house is a monster. And this movie continues on just as the 3 of them are trying their best to destroy the structure of the house, aka the entire monster. We're just kind of jumping back and forth here, but again, for a classic is The Crow. And again, this is based off of 2 people, and they are a couple who are in love, and just before their wedding night, they're both murdered by a member of the inner city gang. But on the anniversary of their death, Eric, who is the husband, rises from the grave and takes his vigilante status as the Crow. His sole mission is basically just to track down everybody that was involved with the murder and kill them. And this vigilante game will only end once he has gotten down to the root of the problem, which is the head gangster or the top dollar. Next up again is another kind of classic-ish, is Donnie Darko, which is one of my actual favorite movies. So this movie is based on a kid named Donnie Darko. Actually not really a kid, more of a young adult. And this movie is prefaced by Donnie Darko surviving a very, very freak accident. So he kind of goes through this whole notion of discovering exactly what life is about and what it's meant to actually be alive and be in love. He uncovers some secrets of the universe which actually give him a very tempting power to mess around with basically time and space continuum and destiny as a whole. Next up, if you guys didn't know, I'm kind of in love with the franchise of, now this isn't just one specific movie, this is quite a few movies all in one, but it is the Saw franchise, which I definitely recommend to anybody who really likes all the blood and gore that Halloween has to offer. There are no specific storylines to each of these all connected, but there is one basic one. The storyline is essentially about a man named Jaw who goes by Jigsaw because he basically just cuts jigsaw pieces out of people's skin after he has murdered them. Well, not murdered them because he never actually kills anybody, but he takes people that have done wrong in their life or done stupid things that have affected other people, and he puts them into situations where they have the choice of sacrificing certain things in life or saving their lives. And if they were to sacrifice each thing in their life, then they're going to save their lives and possibly others, but they're going to continue in being selfish, then they're essentially going to kill themselves. It is very, very gruesome, so just keep that ahead of time if you don't know the Saw franchise. It's actually some of my favorite movies. When the third one came out, me and my mom actually streamed the two of them and watched 1 and 2 in the same night, and then went to see the third one in theaters. And the last one, we're going to end off with kind of a cutesy note, and that is Casper. This movie is about a little ghost named Casper who peacefully haunts a little place in Maine. A family ends up moving to this house in Maine, and the daughter is named Kat. And Kat basically, Casper falls in love with her, which complicates things quite a bit because she is only as a friend to him and he is completely in love with her. And again, this makes things very complicated between them, not only because he is in love with her and she is strictly a friend at this point, but also because he has uncles who are also haunting the place that they are currently living in, and they play a lot of little tricks on them, both Casper and the actual family. But that is it for today's video, and I hope you guys actually get around to watching some of these. I know some of them are available on Netflix, but other sites do definitely stream them, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye guys!